A fair proportion of the air passenger market is for short hops, journeys that would take hours by car or train for perhaps 40 minutes by plane. It's especially useful to, say, a businessman who'll be continuing his journey on another flight, feeding the passengers in to the major international airports. The HS748 and BAc111, both British, have between them sold over 500, but they're old. The 146 is designed to take the feeder liner into the 1990s. 18 months ago, it already existed in a wood and cardboard mock-up, put together in complete detail to act as a three-dimensional sales room.
We're now in a position where we can say to an airline, such as the people I've been talking to today, what the aircraft has to offer. What is it going to do for him? Now, I've just left a meeting where he's asked very specifically for us to simulate his airline on our computers. And I've just collected a batch of information. And some of our analysts will be operating the airline for him, but on our computers. They will fly the airplane over his routes. They will estimate times, fuels, the number of passengers to be carried, where those passengers are going, not how they lose their luggage. They will work out the cost of operation for the capital, the crew, fuel, oil, landing costs, the fare the passenger pays, how much money the airline actually gets from that fare, and whether the airline makes a profit.
So the sales staff at British Aerospace actually run their own computerized airline, flying the 146. They've already been doing it for years with timetables, ticket costs and passenger projections to check that the dozens of target airlines will get answers to the most important question. Will the 146 make a profit for them?
So you have the right aircraft, but for a particular part of the market, we're not building 747s or Concords. We are building a 146. We're not building the European Airbus. Now, the airlines we select are the ones we used for our market research. There are particular types of airlines operating particular types of aircraft. So the confidence has been conditioned in before we actually go to see them.
It's an enormous risk, isn't it?
No, it's a straight commercial practice. We're not in the business to make aeroplanes. We're in the business to make money. We do.
Do you really think you will?
Indeed. What should be different?
The computer tells you that.
No, I tell them that, because that's the result of the British aviation industry.
From the marketing team, it goes to designers, whose job it is to work out how to build the aircraft the marketplace is demanding. Here, the truth of a new aircraft is further reinforced. There's little of inspiration, little hunch, or even precious little doubt about how an aircraft is designed.
Well, the shape comes from really looking, first of all, at the body size. If we have to have 70 seats, that determines roughly the shape of the body. Having determined that, we then have to lift that particular payload out of certain airfields. That means we want a wing, and we want a wing of a certain area. So the next thing to determine is the wing area. Having determined the wing area, then various things follow in the wake of that. The fin area, the tail area. All of this comes from the initial determination of what sort of wing you need. Having determined the wing, you've then got to decide, of course, where you put the engines and how many engines. So the initial configuration depends on selecting whether it's 2 engines, 3 engines, or in this case, 4 engines. Having got to the configuration of the broad outline of the aeroplane, you've then got to decide where you put the wing, whether it's going to be a high wing or a low wing, the tailplane, whether it's going to be a high tailplane or a low tailplane. And this really comes about by looking at the overall performance and the cost levels of the aeroplane. Now, we've chosen a high wing on this particular aeroplane because it has a number of advantages. It means that we can get all the lift off the wing because it's clean along the top surface.
Do you not at all think we'll put the wing here because it would look more attractive that way?
No, I'm afraid that doesn't come into it at all.
Not at all?
We put the wing in the most efficient aerodynamic and structural position to suit the particular airline. The aesthetics of the aeroplane don't come into it at all.
Is there nothing that isn't totally functional?
Well, the only areas of the aeroplane that are not essentially functional are those areas which the passenger sees. All of the interior of the aeroplane is very much stylized to meet a customer aesthetic point of view rather than anything else. But the hardware on the aeroplane, the pieces of the aeroplane that do the work, they are purely fixed essentially on the job they have to do, and to do that with the minimum amount of cost involved in doing it.
In 1972, they had everything they needed for the aircraft. They knew the markets, they had the shape, the size, the wings, the engines, they even had the tyres. In short, in 1972, they could have gone for a first flight in 1976. But there was just one thing they didn't have, the money. And for that, they went to the government. In our next film on the building of an airliner, we'll be looking at the politics of the 146, and in particular why it was on and then off, and why in 1981 it still has to make its first flight.